Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I am your host, Mike Veerman. I'm here, my friend and trusty producer, Max Kerman. We also have our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham, and Erica is working the dials as always. Guys, Shane, you're at a cottage right now, and it looks like you look like you're cottaging. You have no sleeves on. You look pretty cool and relaxed, and you have a drink going. How you feeling?
Feeling pretty cool and relaxed. Yeah, I got a drink going. We went to this moonshine place and bought some moonshine. So I'm drinking moonshine right now, and it's pretty tasty.
Wow,
and cool. Yeah.
Where is your cottage, by the way? Whose cottage is this?
This is my in-laws' cottage. Their family cottage, Alex's family cottage, and it's pretty sweet. It was a one-floor cottage. Then they had a wrecking ball come take it down, and then now it's a two-story.
Where is it,
cottage.
though? I want to geographically. Where is it?
Nice.
Oh, sorry, on Eagle Lake. I don't know if that means anything to you.
That means nothing to me. Where
I don't
is
know.
that?
I don't know. It's like a 3-hour drive from Hamilton.
This means
I don't know. I put it into Google Maps, and then it takes us there. I'm the navigator, though. Alex drives, so.
I feel like in the era of Instagram, I mean, it's always probably been like this, but there's different like class levels of cottage. You know what I mean? Like if you're like super rich, you're going up to Muskoka. I'd say one tier below that is the Kawarthas. I think up and coming is Prince Edward County. I think most people in Hamilton are going down to Port Dover. I think if you're in London, Grand Bend's kind of your best bet. But I do find that it's like a cultural signifier, like where you land on like, you know, the money earning thing. If you got a Muskoka place, you're showing that off all the time on your geotags. Have you found that?
Yeah, I feel like Muskoka is like the be-all, end-all, but I'm not sure where Eagle Lake stands, so I'm unsure whether to post or not a lot.
No, just stay away from the geotag until Max can confirm whether it's a fancy place or not.
It feels pretty sweet, though. I think where I'm at right now is that perfect level of where it's very comfortable but not pretentious, but not like bummy. Like it's not like like my mom is a cottage in Selkirk, and that's fine. I like it about like 50 times less than here.
It does look like wherever the cottage is, that you guys have recently pulled off an art heist of some sort in the background there.
They're big art fans, there being John and Lorna. And yeah, there's this guy named Leapy Lee, and they get him, they commission all of his art pieces. I don't know. Maybe that's probably his nickname, yeah.
You know what, guys? I actually I was a little late to the call, or at least I thought it was going to be, but then everybody rolled in a little bit late as we are coming off a holiday weekend here in Canada. But I was just talking to my brother, who was just on last week's pod because it is his birthday today.
That's right.
So we did a FaceTime with Winnie and him, but he was making me laugh, Max, because obviously on last week's episode, we talked about how Michael Bradley had followed him, the star of the Toronto FC. And he said, fucking Max, this is my brother, I quote him. I go, what did he do? He goes, well, because I asked him, I said, hey, did you get any response from any of the people from the team after appearing on the podcast? He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, but Max went and tagged this video of me saying that Michael Bradley now follows me on Instagram. He goes, Max tagged Michael Bradley. He goes, so I immediately was so embarrassed. He's like, so I had to reach out to Max. He's like that weird parent that's like sending me to school on the first day of school. And he's like, don't forget your acne cream. He said he felt so, and then Max was like, sorry.
That's exactly what happened. I was so excited because, you know, I'm very proud of your brother. But I've been accused of this before. Like Dan, our friend Dan, who works with Kyle Dubas and the Leafs, like he'll get mad at me for that as well if he feels like I'm prodding or getting involved too much. But I was just like, this piece of content is hilarious. Greg is so cool. He's got cool friends like us. Bradley should be aware of this. That was my line of reasoning.
I must have missed it though, so you must have taken it down pretty quick after Greg sent the text.
I got a scolding text and I took it right down.
That's hilarious. Yeah. What else has been going on? Anything else?
You were on a roof or something.
Me?
I saw you on a roof singing.
Oh, you mean on TV or on our personal Instagram?
Both. Yeah. No. I didn't watch it on TV. I saw a thing. I don't know. Explain.
Well, on the weekend, Ash had some people over because Arkells were a part of the hockey coming back, and we filmed us performing 2 songs acoustically, our new song "Quitting You" and our other song "Years in the Making," and it was before the Leafs game. So it was a really exciting weekend because the band hasn't worked in or had a proper show in a very long time. I mean, we've continued to work since we were taken off the road because of COVID, but we haven't had actually like an event that we were like a part of in a major way. So this was actually like really exciting to actually like dig in, get our hands dirty, have to and we produced the special and then kind of handed it over to Rogers and Budweiser. So we are very much a part of like the filming and the cutting and the backdrop and everything. So it was very fun. And then on Sunday, we had some people over to Ash's place on her rooftop. She lives just like on Yonge Street and has like an awesome 3rd floor roof. And we set up a TV outside, as I think many people did in Canada, across the country, with sports coming back, having some backyard viewing parties or rooftop viewing parties. And it was awesome. And it was cool because our song "Quitting You" just came out on the last Thursday. And so it was like a big look to be able to like go on, national TV with sports coming back. And it was fun. A lot of our friends were there and we're singing along to the new song within 2 days. Everyone seemed to know a bunch of the words. And so it was really cool. I haven't felt like that in a long time. It was awesome.
And Ron McLean's intro is pretty cool too. He kind of like big upped everyone in the band, except for Nick. Was Nick hurt by that?
No. But Ron's always done that. The first time we ever did anything with Ron, it was at a TIFF party, and he went out of his way to introduce every band member, and then he referenced some deep cuts. I think I've probably talked about this before, but he referenced "I'm Not the Sun" and "I'm No Champagne Socialist." And I remember thinking, I'm like, man, this is not even on TV. This is like a late night, 1 a.m. TIFF party, and this guy is done his homework. I was like, he is such a pro. He also went out of his way to say the names of Chazelle Weeks and Amoy Evans, who sang with us on Years in the Making, and Maya Kiltron, who played fiddle with us. And it was probably my favorite big part of the whole weekend was that Maya, who's a new musician friend of ours, because on the new song "Quitting You" we have a fiddle, and we needed a fiddle player to play with us live because Kendall Carson, who played on the track, she lives in Vancouver Island. Maya sent us a really just nice note and just how much it meant to have Ron McLean say her name like on national television, and she said she's never kind of got that recognition before. So that was the coolest part, I think, of the whole thing. It's just kind of the community vibes that I like about playing in a band and getting to feel that. So did you watch the performance on our Instagram, Shane?
No, I'm at a cottage and the Wi-Fi is not always great. As soon as I get home, though, I'm checking it out.
Yeah, as soon as you get back to some LTE, you gotta check it out.
Speaking of Nick, the bass player in your band, every morning I go out for a walk with my daughter Winona. I'm like the morning guy when we're splitting the duties, and I ran into him, and then I got a text from you shortly after that, Maxie.
Yeah, because we were in the studio this week and last week, I should say, and Nick was like, have you talked to Mike lately? I was like, wow, what's up? He's like, I saw him today. I was acting really weird. I was like, why were you acting weird? It was like 10 a.m. He's like, well, the issue is that he was with Winona and it was it was like 9 a.m. and I was eating like a fudgicle or something like that. And he was trying to hide his fudgicle from you and Winona. And he felt very embarrassed. As a 35-year-old, shouts to Nick, his birthday was actually the other day as well. He felt very embarrassed. And he didn't want to set a bad example for Winona, it sounds like.
Hey, he was hiding the chocolate. Like Max texted me and he goes, "Hey, was Nick being weird?" I go, "No." I go, he was in a van, like he was driving. And so he was at a 4-way stop and we had to wave someone through so we could keep talking. And then, it turned out he was hiding a fudgesicle so he wouldn't get judged for crushing a fudgie at fucking 9 a.m., which I thought was hilarious. I was like, that's aspirational. I wish I had a fudgesicle to eat at 9 a.m.
That's why he had to hide it.
That's right.
He didn't want to share it. Not during these times.
Guys, this is unrelated to anything, but I'm on TikTok now because Lauren loves scrolling through TikTok. And there was a TikTok saying that because you're a millennial if you hold your camera like this. If you are a Gen Z, you hold your camera like this. Did you know that's a thing?
I don't get it. Like
millennial, Gen Z.
And what's the thinking? Well, we know the above angle is actually better.
Well, millennials think that's the look. That's what you want. That's more flattering.
I'm a millennial.
Z, they're beyond that. They just think this is cool.
Oh,
No,
gotcha.
yeah, I'm millennial. Like mine's down. I'm on the cusp of millennial. I'm the last year you can be a millennial.
You mean you're the first year you could be a millennial? Like you're
Whatever.
the oldest.
You know
one.
what I mean? Yeah, I'm the oldest you can possibly be.
Erica, what do you think is cooler? You're the youngest one on this podcast. This
Yeah.
or this?
I think the Gen Z way is a little bit cooler.
Yeah, interesting.
So wait, Mike has
do you have an
it
opinion?
pointing up at him. So that means you're not a millennial.
Well, two things. First of all, it's just the way the desk is. I don't have anything to put I got my computer. You guys got like, I think phones. So they're kind of like,
I'm on a computer also.
oh, interesting. Did you stack it?
I don't know. This just came to me naturally. I didn't even think about it. This is just how I did it. It's a millennial thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I feel like, I don't know. I'm an 81, and as I know, there's people that say 81 is actually the start of the millennials, Shane. If you look it up on Google right now.
That's bull. Look it up, Erica.
All right, Shane, are you accusing Mike of being a Gen Xer? Is that what you're saying?
Oh,
Shane?
he's for sure not in the same, like whatever it's called as me, millennial. Like, what are these groupings called? Like, what do you call these groupings?
I thought it was Gen X.
Generations, I suppose, is what you call them.
yeah.
They're Generation
Erica.
X, Generation Z.
So the first search result says anyone born between 1981 and 1996 is considered a millennial.
Really? Okay, there you have it.
Hey, I make the cusp too. We're all
Hey,
millennials.
we're all
That's
part of the same
nuts.
cohort.
Wow. Just kids.
Shane, how drunk are you right now, by the way?
I'm not drunk. I'm more like warm and fuzzy. Like that phase. Like, I'm not slurring. I'm just more like out there spacey kind of. The fun type. Fun loving.
That's
a good way to be. It's a good way to be. Speaking of sort of the year we were born, whether you're a millennial or anything like that, I was listening to, I'd posted about this on Twitter, but the Jim Carrey on Mark Maron, WTF. I don't know if you guys listened to it, but he was saying something that I thought was very interesting. And he was talking about the idea of when you like sort of think too much about the past or think too much about the future. He called it getting into a time machine. He goes like, whenever I get caught up in that, I call it getting into the time machine. And he says it actually it's not healthy because nobody is able to just sort of be present all the time. And I've been thinking a lot about that since Jim Carrey said that. And I was like, I do think a lot about either like the past and like paths not taken. And then I find myself thinking a lot about sort of the future and like, well, what am I doing to set this up? And what does this look like in 5 years? And I'm like, I think I am doing it at the expense of being present, like with my kid or with Danica. And so ever since I heard Jim Carrey say that, whenever I find myself getting into the proverbial time machine, I actually stop myself and like try to be just present. And it's actually, I found it to be very, very, very like helpful from a mental standpoint where I'm just like, oh, it actually feels good to then just sit in the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you guys listen to that pod?
Mike, this is my whole theory on mindfulness, because what you described is literally mindfulness. It's just being like, I think it's part of it at least, which is like just be in the moment, be aware of when you're thinking too much about the past or when you're stewing too much on the future or either or, and just try your best to be present and to appreciate sort of the beauty around you and what you can take in this very moment. But my issue with the word mindfulness is that if you say I'm practicing mindfulness, you sound like a fucking asshole. You sound like a jackass. But if Jim Carrey says something cool on a Mark Maron podcast, you go, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Because I'm pretty sure that I've talked about this very idea on the podcast or like going out with friends and be like, oh, this has actually really helped because my stress comes from thinking about the past or thinking too much about the future. But if I'm just able to go, oh, actually the thing that's happening right now is I'm sitting right here. I'm in my parents' house right now. I'm talking to you guys. And then you go, okay, life isn't as chaotic anymore. I guess the thing what we need to do, I think this happens a lot in culture, is what are annoying phrases or things that put people off when it could actually be a very useful tool. You know what I mean? It's like
Talking about branding. It's all branding.
It's all
man.
branding. Honestly.
Jim Carrey calling it a time machine stuck with me. I went, that is such a cool way to describe the way about thinking about the past or going to the future. He's like, you're getting in the time machine. Get out of the time machine, you know? And I just think that was such a sticky way to describe it that for me was like, ooh, I love that. Like I'm getting in the time machine. I got to get out of the time machine right now.
Yeah.
You should, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We should make a list of things that are just kind of branded incorrectly. I think a lot of the mental health stuff is branded incorrectly. There's a lot of stuff that's branded incorrectly that could actually be really useful.
I've heard that the past is related to depression and the future is related to anxiety.
That makes sense. That makes
That
sense.
does make sense.
That makes total sense because you're depressed about something that's probably happened to you or events that have happened to you, and you're anxious.
you
your
could have
anxiety
done.
comes from things you could have done, and you regret, and then you're anxious or you have anxiety about things that are coming up. Yeah, that makes sense.
Or things you won't do coming up that you will or won't do. Yeah.
Can you guys think of anything off the top of your head that should have a rebrand? I think exercise should have a rebrand. I think there needs to be a better way to brand exercising. Because I find whenever anybody who does like to work out describes like the benefits of working out, I find it not to be that convincing. Even though when I do work out, I do enjoy it and I know the benefits are there. But do you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people who don't exercise have just been pitched it incorrectly. Shane, how would you pitch it exercising to somebody who doesn't really like exercising that much?
I don't know. I've tried. It doesn't work.
When you pitched
He
it?
would say,
Like I tried
he
to
would
get
say-
Mike and I used to go to the gym. Like it lasted like 3
thought
times. Each time I tried to
thought
make
you-
it fun.
I thought your joke was going to be when Max goes, what would you say to somebody? I thought you were going to go, well, I would say, Mike, this is what we need to do. Yeah, well, I will say that when we did work out for like that, it was like a month, maybe, or just under a month. It did feel good. It felt good. My arms felt a little swole. I felt like I got that rush that everybody talks about. But it's really, I find it so brain draining to work out. I could play basketball for 8 hours a day on vacation. I cannot work out and lift weights. It's so, it's hard.
The crazy part is, Mike, you bought the year membership.
It was a great deal.
I know, but it's like if you're on the fence, I would say never buy the year membership.
Well, this is what people do. Psychologically, I said to myself, if I spend the money on the year membership, once I start to lose a little bit of interest, I will stick with it because I'm monetarily tied to it. But as we all know, after you do this enough times, you don't give a shit about the money once you don't want to do it.
And you were too
It's some
proud, though,
cost.
to go tell them, like, oh, maybe can I get the money back and just do the month? You just paid it, never went back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a tough one. I don't have the answer to that. What about you, Erica? Do you work out?
No, not consistently and not regularly.
What do you need to be told, you think? What's the rebrand that would actually work for you?
That like you're gonna look hotter. Like you will physically look, your body will look better. It's very shallow. It's very surface level, but that's what would work for me, I think. Yeah. And also like health factors would be great. But I think what would really get me out there is like, oh, you will have a 6-pack if you do X, Y, Z X amount of times. I'll be like, okay, great.
I just think that, okay, here's my pitch to anybody who should maybe get a little bit more exercise. It's not even necessarily join a gym, but I just think that any problems I ever have in my life are solved on a walk or on a run or when I move my body. Any issue, if I'm like stuck on a lyric or a problem, I just go for a walk. Often it involves a phone call, but sometimes it's just me and my own thoughts. And the movement and the fresh air, that just solves all my problems. So basically, it's a problem-solving tool. So if you have any issues in your life, it'll just get solved on a walk. That's my pitch.
That's a good one.
What if you get a cramp on the run? And then you have to come back, and then your body hurts. Like, then what? What happens to the problem?
You go slow and steady to start, and then you build yourself up. No rush.
Okay.
It's a long road. That's my vibe.
It's good advice.
It's good advice. Guys, you want to move on to topics?
Let's do it.
All right, moving on. So our first topic is the head of Spotify, Daniel Ek, in an interview had suggested, because I guess one of these things that dogs Spotify as it is like $1 billion company and it's thriving and more so even during this pandemic. A lot of people have talked about maybe the practices that they have when it comes to paying royalties to artists. Some people say, oh, they're not paying them enough. What's the formula, et cetera, et cetera. They're making money off artists. They're not giving it back. And I guess in sort of addressing these, years-long accusations or charges, those are strong words, suggestions, whatever you want to call it. He basically said that artists maybe don't understand that in 2020, you can't put out music at the rate that they maybe put it out in the old music model, that basically you have to engage with fans nonstop. You can't put out an album every 3 years. And that basically you have to hustle. If you work hard, then the Spotify royalties will pay what you want them to pay. This caused an uproar amongst musicians. Of course, we have a musician on this podcast, a very successful musician. I guess we'll start with you, Max, because I'd be very interested to know what your thoughts were when he said that. Did you find it insulting to hear that from the head of Spotify? Basically, if you want better royalties, work harder.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a classic example of the wrong person delivering a message that not that I necessarily agree with, but might have some merit to it. I think it's one of those things that Spotify streaming royalty rates aside, the reality is that like we do live in the digital age, and art is consumed way faster, and it's also more democratic, so there's more people putting out art all the time. So when it comes to just the marketplace itself, producing more often will probably serve you well, and that's probably the case. And that's due to the nature of the digital age that we live in. It is obviously very obnoxious for somebody like Daniel Ek to be the one telling someone that. Like it would be one of those things. It's like if there was like a successful indie artist. Okay, here's a good example. Volkpeck. Volkpeck. Do you know that name? Have you heard of that band? Vulpeck. Have you heard of this band? Mm-mm. They're sort of this like avant-garde indie rock jazz collective, and they're very fucking hip, and they have done everything themselves. They put out records on Spotify, like I think through their own label, to the point where they're selling out Madison Square Garden. You've never heard of this band, but the success of this band is based on how they've interacted into the digital space. So I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I would guess if someone from that band, if the leader of that band said, hey, the way we've actually been able to make a career without any label, and it's actually like stimulated our touring business, and we've built up fans all over the world, we've done this by putting out records more consistently because we realize that that's how young people or music fans consume music. This is something that young artists might want to think about, that instead of like laboring over one record for 6 years and making and thinking it's your masterpiece and that's what you need to do, you might want to consider trying to, have a little bit more output because, you're an artist living in this particular time and that's what you need to do. I don't think that kind of message would be taken as badly as most artists did with Daniel Ek saying this, because it just, ultimately, it's annoying for a head of like a tech industry just to be like telling artists what to do. So I think it's a case of a bad messenger, mostly more than anything.
Shaney, what are your thoughts?
Mine's more of like a question for Max. So do you think releasing the music too soon fucks up the quality of the songs? For example, Taylor Swift released an album way sooner than she normally would have, but nobody's really talking about that album, or am I wrong?
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of examples.
Like, where's the blank space?
Oh, sure.
I want blank space.
You say that about every album, whether that's Taylor Swift
true.
or not.
If it's not as good as blank space, wait longer.
Well, the Taylor Swift example is hard to say because she's at a different point in her career, and we could do a whole episode on folklore, which would be very interesting to me. I would say that there's been a lot of incredible records that have been made really quickly and then they catch lightning in a bottle, and the quickness of it doesn't take away from the quality of the music. I'd say there's been a lot of records that have taken way too long and have been labored over to the point where it's actually been a detriment to the music. And so that there's actually an argument to like enforcing deadlines, I think, for artists sometimes, because it's like, hey, listen, we need the first draft of that book like by next month, because otherwise I think a lot of artists are known to either procrastinate or also just sort of like get their heads too far into the details, and it actually like not really making that much of a difference when it comes to the product itself. Of course, there are examples of like, Bruce Springsteen, he said he had to work on the lyrics to Born to Run for 8 straight months, and he worked on them every single day. And that obviously proved to be the right move because that song is so good. So it's hard to say like what is the right move because I think there's outcomes no matter how you do it, different outcomes no matter how you do it. But yeah, I guess for me personally, the quickness of culture right now doesn't totally bother me. And the other thing is it's just a fact of the matter. Like, and then I'm just speaking for myself. I mean, I know other members of our band would like to slow down a little bit and be a little more, would like to, maybe be able to work on a song for a longer period of time. But for me, I personally enjoy it. And I think there's a lot of artists that like wish they could put out music faster than what's acceptable these days. Cause even still, you can only put out maybe, if you're a rock and roll band, you can only put out maybe one album every year and a half. And that's, and I think for a lot of people, that feels kind of slow.
But should albums be dead? Like maybe you just, instead of albums, you just release one song at a time, and maybe at the end of releasing all the songs, call it an album?
Yeah, I mean that's another way to look at it. I think like Daniel Ek could have again framed it differently. He could have said, I know a lot of artists really love the album format, and I love the album format. And I think there will always be a place for the album format, but by consistently putting out music, it will engage in the fans. It'll engage in your streaming community just by having more music that makes the front page of New Music Friday or whatever. And that will overall help your streaming numbers. So I don't know. There's a few ways to look at it, but I think it's the messenger was the problem in this particular case.
Do you think? I do wonder this. How do they monetize the streams? Is it literally just if you get 1 million streams, you get paid different than somebody that gets, say, 500 streams, which seems obvious. So is it the 500 streamers that are bitching about the royalty rate? Because it would seem like it would just come down to number of spins, no? Or is it the idea that the mechanism by which they sort of promote certain songs could lead to more spins?
No, I think it's just the rate that they pay per song, per spin is the thing that a lot of people don't like. And I think Spotify, compared to some of the other streaming digital platforms, is lower. I'm going to get this wrong, but I think YouTube or Apple Music might pay a little bit higher. We can clarify that afterward, Erica. But yeah, I think some people take issue that Spotify is the biggest streaming platform in the world, and they pay their artists, on the lower scale. I think that's one of the issues. It's a tough one though. I don't know. As it relates to, do you think this issue exists when it comes to film and television? Because you can cut movies faster, because cameras are better, because you can make things more cheaply in a lot of cases. Do you think filmmakers are feeling the pressure to put movies out more often just because that's the way the economy works? Or do you think this is a music specific thing?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think writing is just as hard as making writing a movie or writing a series is just as hard as writing a song. I think it's harder actually. More time consuming.
I definitely think it's harder.
I also think too that filmmaking and television is so collaborative in many ways. You actually need a lot more people than you, Max. To make an Arkells song, you could go away and sort of start it, and then you could bring the guys in if you want. But that's it. You can make it and put it out. If Shane wanted to make a film or a pilot for a TV show, he'd probably have to bring in at least 15 other people to get it to a certain quality. Whereas you could probably roll a mic and pick up an acoustic and put out a song tomorrow that, you know what I mean, would be of a certain quality. I just think it's anything that's more collaborative is harder to pull off quicker just because you need more people and everyone in every department has to be talented and the soup has to come together to taste right. Whereas I think songwriting it can be a more solo pursuit.
That's a good point. Yeah, this probably doesn't relate as much to film. Do you,
One man show.
Sorry?
One man show. Shane was going to do one before the pandemic. Well, it was a 2-man show, but you guys were going to do a theater style show that you guys were putting together that is a form of art that you put out and you write and you create and perform like a song. How was that going, the creative process? Do you feel like that could have used another 3 months, or do you think it would have been fine to go up the next day if it had to?
So I had taken, on March 11th, I had taken off the 12th and the 13th, which was a Thursday and a Friday. And then I was going to use that time to go to JR's cottage, JR Diggs. And we were going to finish the show on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that was going to be our isolated time where we're just alone in the cottage, putting the finishing touches on the play. But that night is when you guys were at the Nick Nurse show and the shit hit the fan. Tom Hanks got sick. The NBA got canceled. So, I don't really know how that process would have gone or how I felt about it or if I think it was truly going to be amazing or anything. But I definitely think it was probably going to be really good. And I was glad and sad to see it not come to fruition.
Okay, but what about the idea that people need deadlines? That's one that I think about a lot, especially as it relates to my line of work, but also people need that are in the creative fields. Yeah, because I think that's the other thing that isn't being talked about in the Daniel Ek piece, which is not exactly what he's getting at, but there is something to it, which is just deadlines, I think sometimes are good for creativity. I think it actually whips your brain into high gear. And I think a lot of artists were grew up on a type of album cycle that they feel is like the be all end all, which is like, oh, Arcade Fire, took 2.5 to 3 years to put out the records back when they came out. Or, U2 took 4 years between records in the 90s, or whatever the example is. And they go, oh, this feels like it should apply to me. Oh. But I do think that, having deadlines is a useful thing.
Well, I still think you're spending the same amount of time on the album, whether you release in 4 years or a year. It's just how much time are you taking off between writing a song or procrastinating or whatever. You know what I mean? Like when I'm writing an essay, whether I have 2 weeks, a month, or 2 days, I'm still cramming the night before and putting all my effort into the 25th hour. And I think most people are like that.
I tend to agree with that.
Speaking of deadlines, Max, you guys have a song. Arkells have a song called Deadlines. Do you remember the time?
Track 1, Jackson Square.
Do you remember the time that me, you, AJ, and my brother saw Weezer at like Downsview and then drove to Ottawa because you guys were gigging? This was like years ago. And whatever the festival you were playing was putting up in a hotel. So you're like, oh, come stay in my hotel. We'll drive through the night. So we saw Weezer. And then you drove or my brother drove. And me and AJ just got annihilated in the back seat, which was like so fun.
I think your brother drove because it was your car and that's a stick shift. And so your brother drove because I don't know how to do that. But Mike, that was a legendary night for you in my mind, because it really solidified you as one of the best talkers out there, because the trip to Ottawa is famously pretty long. It always feels like if you're going from Toronto or Hamilton to Ottawa, it's like an hour and a half too long. Like you can kind of get to Kingston comfortably, but once you pass Kingston, you're like, are we fucking there yet? And then, it's just kind of brutal. But we left at like, again, 10:30 p.m. So we weren't going to be getting in until like 2:33 in the morning. And like you talked the whole time, and it was the fucking best. It was the fastest trip to Ottawa ever. I was like, this is like, everybody has their skill set, everybody has their talents and like the situations they thrive in. I was like, this is exactly what this car ride needed. And that was like earlier on in our friendship. So I knew from then on I could always count on you to pass the time, on a boring car trip. So
it was my pleasure. Yeah, it was fun. We were just getting drunk and telling stories, but I remember the next day at the festival, we all got very drunk. It was fun. And in your like band room, they have a food out and stuff like that. And I remember they had this huge spread of cold cuts. And I thought it was hilarious because I kept singing to the melody of "We got deadlines to meet." I kept singing "We have cold cuts to eat," and I wanted to take the cold cuts back to the hotel. And I just kept singing, "We got cold cuts to eat."
I thought you were gonna say "We have deadlines to meet," like MEAT.
MEAT. Yeah. No, I just kept saying "We got cold cuts to eat," and I took it back to the hotel.
That's funny.
It's great times. Guys, let's move on to the next topic. We were talking about the NBA. The NBA is back. I mean, all sports are back. Max and the guys in Arkells obviously just had their song debut on the Leafs broadcast, which was like huge. I'm sure that got like massive numbers, and everybody's been reaching out to you guys, but that was amazing. But near and dear to our hearts, or my heart in particular, the NBA is back, and the bubble seems to be holding. It seems that like all of the thought and the precautions that they put into place are working, and we're getting to see like amazing quality basketball. We've had 2 official Raps games on top of 3 scrimmages. They played Saturday night against the Lakers. I don't know how you guys feel, but I literally, aside from not getting in the time machine too much due to my therapist Jim Carrey's advice, I have been fucking loving basketball. It's on all day, every day, which is like, it's hard. You can't really watch a ton, but you can always have it kind of on in the background, especially if the baby's napping. And then at nighttime, it's just hoops, man. Like it's been a dream. How have you guys all felt about it? Shaney boy, have you watched a lot of hoops?
None. I haven't watched 1 second of it. I don't have cable up here. We only have Netflix, so and a PlayStation, which I guess has Disney Plus. But I haven't seen any of it. Is it on cable?
Yeah, it's on everywhere.
Oh.
Is this your contribution to the pod as the pop culture aficionado? Is it on cable? How much moonshine have you been drinking? Like, this is your worst episode of all time.
I told you there's a little hyperbole with that pop culture thing. I've got 2 babies, man. You want to ask about Moana? I know everything. But continue. Yeah, NBA. Yeah. What do you think, Erica?
It's great. It feels like the Olympics or something. Like every time you turn on the TV, there's a hockey game on, or there's basketball, or there's soccer. Like there's always a sport now on. Like, yeah, this weekend I was just watching pretty much hockey all weekend, watched the Raptors game. Like, yeah, it's great. It feels like Christmas or something.
How are the Raptors doing in there?
They look great.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, they look awesome. Undefeated except for one scrimmage loss, but they've won both their like regular season games. They beat the Lakers and the Miami Heat, and they look good, man. It's really fun.
Hey, Mike, tell me about what you like that you like about the telecasts and what surprised you and what could be better, because I feel like you have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, I think aesthetically, like they made it look as like good as you possibly could make it look. They actually have all of the sort of normal announcers that we listen to, like Mike Breen, Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson, Doris Burke, Mark Jones. They're all in the bubble. Stan Van Gundy, Ian Eagle. They're like actually like they're doing it from like the court side. So it's like you're actually still, you feel like you're watching a real broadcast. And one thing, and I actually read a piece by Michael Grange, who's a Toronto sports writer, saying how basketball is this sport that actually maintains its intensity despite whether there's a crowd or not. And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. Like if you're in like an intense pickup game and it's like literally just, it's, you know, schlubs playing, it does get very intense on the court. So when you watch that on TV with the best players in the world in games that have stakes, you can feel it. And you actually don't need 19,000 people screaming to still feel like, LeBron James go Moana with somebody. It's just like, you can still feel it. So I think basketball more than the other sports is really translating. The virtual fans at first, Shane, you haven't seen any of this, right? Have you been seeing anything like online?
Not really. Kind of like little stills. Like they have people just subbed in like a video game kind of.
Yeah, it's like they're kind of like zooming in like a Zoom chat, and they have these like seats. But if they leave their computer, it looks like an empty seat. So like hilariously, like if Miami Heat fans get bored, you still have an empty arena of virtual fans because like half of them left the broadcast. So it's like up on the video board.
So it's real the real people. Like, are they paid?
No, so it's 300 people. You have to sign up. So say you're a Raptors fan and you want to be one of the 300. They don't want anybody doing anything crazy on like ESPN. So you have to be vetted, and it's family and friends or like former players like Dirk Nowitzki jumped in to watch the Dallas game or Paul Pierce watched the Celtics game. I heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but is it true, Max, that Dan Hamilton attended the Raptors game on Saturday night virtually?
I don't think so. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, that was.
I've talked to Dan, but maybe
it was a Champagne Boys rumor going around that Dan had he was one of the 300 that got to actually watch the game courtside.
What happens if you do something crazy, like pull it out or something?
It would probably get captured by Twitter and you'd not be allowed back in the arena. Just kind of like a real fan. But yeah, I think that everything about the broadcast is absolutely working. It'd be cool if like, I don't know if you saw on the first night, they showed like other NBA players are going to watch the games, which is really fun to see, but it's like, they're not in a really good, like filmable area. It's kind of like weird. Like you can tell that they've really set it up for like the way that the cameras are faced. It's almost like a set, like on a play, like a stage. It's like, if you saw behind the cameras, it's just like this empty arena, but what you see in the broadcast, it just feels really, really, really good. And I don't even miss like the courtside stuff because someone suggested that they're going harder for loose balls because they're not worried about twisting an ankle or like knocking their head off of a fan or something like that. So it's almost been more intense. I honestly, like, other than the fact that this is all sort of playing out amid the backdrop of a pandemic that has been devastating for so many reasons, as far as like a nice little sort of, thing amongst like a sea of sort of bad news, it's like, they've executed it amazingly. I haven't watched hockey yet. I don't know. Have you guys seen anything else? I thought soccer looked fine, but it's like, it is what it is. You can't do much. I think the NBA, when they think about their product and how to present it, is the best league in the world. Obviously I'm biased just because like I love the sport, but I'm never really disappointed, man. Like, and it's such a good viewing experience. Maxie, what have you thought about the whole broadcast?
Yeah, overall, I really, really like it. I'm really happy it's back. I do wonder, are the players on the bench, are they separated like for aesthetic reasons or for safety reasons? I can't tell because the safety reasons...
It's for the COVID reasons.
That seems ridiculous because I was like, I kind of like when players are like squeezed in right next to each other. And I know that has to do with like the arena and the other fans that are there. But for them to all be sitting 5 feet away from each other and then going onto the court and sweating all over each other, that seems kind of silly. And there are some like health precaution things that feel like a little like eye rolly to me, which kind of takes me out of it, where I'm like, there doesn't need to be like glass between the two announcers. Like everybody's in the bubble. They're all probably hanging out at the hotel lobby together with each other anyway. But whatever, if they're trying to set an example for everybody else, then that's totally fine. The one thing I do think they're missing out on is, and I wonder how flexible they'll be with making changes to this as they go, is it would be awesome to see other guys in the league attending the games together, because my favorite part of All-Star Weekend is seeing the players all like hang out with each other. And I know they want to build up the rivalries and the teams need to hang out with each other. But like I remember going to see high school basketball tournaments and seeing like the other team, like with really good high school basketball teams, and like one team all sitting in the stands together watching the semifinal and seeing who they're going to play against next. And I think like that, if you've ever played any team sports, whether that's hockey or soccer or baseball, or whatever, it's like, and you're playing a tournament as like a 12-year-old and you see like that other team in like the blue jerseys are walking down the hall and like, oh, they're here. It would just be kind of fun because there's so many awesome personalities in the NBA, and it would be like, oh, so-and-so sitting with so-and-so, or maybe it's like,
so they all showed up.
No, but like, why isn't it? But that should be a bigger part of like the entertainment. So like, I guess I haven't seen that at all. Like
the Lakers Clippers game had like Kyle and DeMar were sitting together, and then they had Melo, and then they had CJ and Dame, and they were all chilling out watching the game. But when they go to the shot of it, which is on the other side of the court, they're kind of spread out as well, and they all got masks on because you can't walk around without a mask on campus. So it's not as like demonstrative as the guys on the bench. That's the other thing that's been amazing is whenever a big play happens, because there's no like fans, the teams that are really tight are like going crazy. Like in the Raptors scrimmages, like Pascal was like falling over as like for having jokes. They're doing all this really fun stuff to try and bring the energy up. And it's like a team like the Raptors who have like so much good chemistry. It's been really, really fun. But yeah, those guys are showing up.
How has the swearing been?
We're not getting court sounds. They basically like, it sounds a lot like you'll hear squeaks of shoes, you'll hear sort of the rims, but you don't hear what you would think you would hear. It's not dead. Like you hear music, there's music pumped into the arena all the time. So the guys that are playing have an atmosphere. So what you're hearing more is like the music or like, doom, 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 as they're like setting up a play and stuff like they have stuff like that going on. Certain local broadcasts are like pumping in crowd noise, or like just a murmur, like a talking. And so you just kind of get used to it. And it doesn't feel weird to me anymore, to be honest. Like watching that Miami game the other day is like, this is just basketball now.
What's the difference between a home game and an away game
now? So the video board. So it's like basically the whole arena is now your color. So if it's a Raptors game, it's like your logos are up on the giant video board surrounding the court. It's all red and black, and then your 300 fans will be up on the screen. And you can hear them cheering. But really like home court advantage is kind of gone. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did hear Simmons say that like it's like fighting for the 2 seed or the 3 seed like kind of doesn't mean as much anymore because everyone's playing on the same courts. Hey, Mike, are they playing? Is it all this games on the same court, or is there like different venues?
It's 3 different venues, and they rotate around, and that's how they can have back-to-back games because they have to sanitize the courts after every game and all that.
Oh, that's right. Interesting.
It's really intense, man. I think that they've taken it really seriously. Like the players that haven't really been wearing a mask, like around campus and stuff, I think they're getting talked to. Like, I think they're just so like, I know you guys are on the court playing together and you're breathing on each other, but if someone does bring it into the bubble, it's like the more precautions we take, the less chance of spreading after like a one case. Cause you don't want one to turn into like, a whole, what is happening, a domino effect with the whole league. It's like if one guy has it, the chances of him spreading it on the court are maybe lower, but if like they're gonna like all hang out by the pool without their masks on, I don't know. I mean, there is thinking behind it, even though people are like, wait a second, they can sweat on each other, but they can't, do this. It's like, well, when they do those things, they're making them sit 6 feet apart to play cards and stuff, which is kind of crazy, but I guess it necessary.
Okay. So I obviously, and none of us have any like real experience playing in front of a big crowd, but I was talking to our friend Brent who played college hockey, and I asked him, I was like, would it make a difference if you were playing in front of a big crowd versus no one? He's like, oh yeah, like in front of a big crowd, when we play against like a team and we had like 4,000 people like screaming at us and it was like a big rival, like I was fired up. And when we were playing an empty like arena, this was in the States, he played college hockey down in New York State, he was like, I didn't really care as much. I was like, I wonder like if that's the case, because I also agree with your point, Mike, which is like you can see guys at the YMCA going crazy. I know, Shane is a maniac no matter what he plays, but yeah, I guess do you think that the players like are 5% less jacked because there's no like 18,000 people screaming? Like, because in my mind, like there has to be a little bit of an adrenaline rush that they're missing, but maybe they're just such high competitive guys that it doesn't matter. What do you think?
Honestly, like, I think like I think the way that these guys are, they know that millions of people are watching these games, and I think they've probably acclimated to their new surroundings. So now they are playing for their teammates or for that superstar who's sitting courtside watching. Like, you just adjust what motivates you. But I think that, like, for these guys, if they're playing pickup like at a gym in the summer in LA, they're probably going to get just as heated if they feel like a call's going against them as they would on national TV. So I think they still have that juice, but it is hard to quantify whether, like, not having the roar of 19,500 people takes something away. But I will say, as somebody watching, and we haven't even gotten to the playoffs yet where there's major stakes, these games have been fucking intense, man. They've been really, really fun.
I wonder if it helps some of the players too. Like if they get a little bit nervous with all those fans watching them and it takes the looseness out of their game.
That's a great question.
Like, I wonder if there's going to be any stat line.
Yeah, TJ Warren, who is a relative nobody, he just dropped 53 points, like a career high. He's not known as a big time scorer, and then he dropped 33 the next day, and those numbers are kind of unprecedented, right?
Yeah, yeah. He upset the Philadelphia 76ers and ruined our good friend Sean Dawson's bet ticket that night, which was pretty crazy because, like, Philly should beat TJ Warren's Indiana Pacers.
Like, what was his career high before that, or was he not much of a scorer?
Oh. He's like a guy that, like, people know about. Like, Phoenix basically traded him for cash, and even at the time they're like, why is Phoenix trade this guy? He's like a development guy. So it's like people were into him, but no one thought, like, he doesn't project like this. And then he comes into the bubble, and like Max says, he drops over 50 and then 30 the next, like, the next game. So yeah, maybe it is like a looseness or something, or maybe he's just got young legs or was working out during the 4 months off while other guys were sort of chilling. But I don't know. I feel like the games have been really good.
Do you think it's a Warren sanity situation? Like a Jeremy Lin sanity?
Oh, well, we'll see if it's sustained, right? What was Linsanity? Like 8 games of madness or something, or 11 games? It was like 11 crazy games, but I don't know. We're going to see.
That's very cool.
But Raps are going to make the finals. I'm picking them. Did before the bubble started.
And Nick Nurse got robbed.
Yeah, that was just the coach's Pure Award. He'll still get the main one that gets announced with the MVP and the Rookie of the Year and all.
What's the Pure Award?
So the coaches get to coach for their peers. It's called the Coaches Association, like Coach of the Year award or whatever. So it's like, but there can be some weird stuff that happens there. Like, Dwayne Casey's not going to root for Nick Nurse no matter what he does. Like, stuff happens there. Whereas the official Coach of the Year award, like the one that gets presented at the NBA awards, that'll get announced a bit down the road.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm an idiot. I thought that was the real one.
No, Nick's going to win the real one, quote unquote.
You're calling that right now?
100%. Nick's going to win Coach of the Year, and the Raps are going to make the finals. I don't know if they're going to win the finals, but they're going to make it.
Who are they going to face? The Clips?
Right, I like it.
Or the Lakes?
Maybe. I don't know. The Clips and the Lakes have both look vulnerable. To be honest, everybody in the bubbles look vulnerable except for our Rappies. And Phoenix. Phoenix is 3-0. Devin Booker hit a game winner today. All right. Guys, I think it's time to get to Shaney's surprise from the cottage.
Oh, wait. We're not talking about that teddy bear?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's pop it in quickly. This was a really heartwarming story. So a woman, her backpack was stolen in Vancouver, I believe out of her car, but in the backpack was a teddy bear that had her mother's voice saying, I love you, and her mother had passed away. So it's like this really, really sort of like personal item that, like, who cares if someone steals money or a wallet or whatever? It's like this bear that has your, deceased mother's voice in it is irreplaceable. And so she had sort of, I think she'd put this on social media, and then Ryan Reynolds amplified it by saying, return the bear, $5,000, no questions asked. I think we can all agree that, she needs to get her bear back. And then it was returned. And then, so it ended up being this really sweet social media moment. And then there was this clip I saw online of the woman with the bear, and the bear says, I love you. And then she's crying and holding the bear. It was very, 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 very touching. And obviously, I don't know if Ryan Reynolds amplifying it or offering the 5K or whatever it was, but it seemed like a nice ending to an otherwise like depressing story, which was right in line with how 2020 is going. But yeah, what were your thoughts on that, Shaney?
Well, the bear got returned, right?
Yeah.
Like, it actually worked.
It worked.
So when I was reading the article, it was like, oh, some good Samaritans found the bear and returned it. But now they're demanding that they get the reward.
Of course.
Oh, is it? But I don't think you can be called a good Samaritan if you still want the 15 grand, right?
I think it was only 5K.
No, it was 15 because George Stroumboulopoulos hopped in with 5, and then Kraft Peanut Butter, because I think their representation is bear. They hopped in and offered another 5 grand because their logo is a bear. So now the people are waiting for their 15 grand. And don't you think it's so obvious that the criminal's buddy was given the bear and it was just left in a park? Like, who would just find, like, why would the bear be in a park and then return
100%.
it? And then now they're demanding the money back. Yeah, it's very suspicious to me.
I think this is why Reynolds was like, no questions asked. I think the insinuation is, if you're the dirtbag that stole this, find a modicum of decency, return the bear, you get the money, and then none of us, we just keep it moving.
But does that make you mad at all?
I think stuff gets stolen all the time, and there's no way that the thief knew that they were stealing this. Like, I mean, listen, theft is bad, and you never know what you're going to take and what it's going to do to somebody or how it's going to shatter somebody. But this seems to be particularly egregious, and so the fact that they did return it is like, you know what I mean? Maybe a sliver of hope in humanity. But of course, they probably did it for the cash. But that doesn't.
No, it's not. It's the ultimate steal now. Now you get all the shit you stole from the U-Haul and 15 grand.
But true. But the thing is, we know these aren't high character people. They stole something from the fucking car anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, at least
But
the
it's
woman
not
gets the
like
bear
a
back.
sliver of
That's
hope
the
for
end goal.
humanity. It's like everything has its price kind of deal. I just thought it was so weird.
Very true. Yeah, I guess the hope is in that this woman had a happy ending, regardless of the intent of the person. It's like, we had a good outcome for one person. The victim at least had a good outcome, even though it seems the criminal was rewarded.
It was desperate times for desperate measures kind of situation where you're like, listen, this is not ideal. Clearly, who took this thing is someone who, as you say, Mike, isn't a very high character person, and you got to do what it takes to get this really important thing back to the person. Because I do think that like for something to go missing in that way, it has to be a perfect storm of like it being left in the wrong place and the wrong kind of unfortunate. Down on their luck kind of person to come across it, because I lost my wallet during COVID. I was running around, I was going for a jog around Queen's Park, and some guy just picked it up and
You've already told this story, Max. You've already told this story?
I told it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had this in a previous
sorry,
pod.
I told the story. Sorry.
Delete that,
He lost it
Erica.
again,
Delete
actually.
that story,
No,
please.
No, keep it in. No, I was going to say it happened the other day to Tony. Tony rode his bike to the studio last Tuesday. Wallet fell out, and he started to cancel all of his credit cards. And I said, Tony, do not cancel your credit cards. Your wallet will be returned. That is my guess.
That's the worst advice.
No.
Then he checks his statement, and all his money's gone.
No. I said,
Let it ride, baby.
No, I said you can put a hold on your credit cards, but don't cancel your credit cards. And then he canceled them anyway. And then 3 hours later, the wallet had been returned. So I think for the most part, people return the stuff. And once in a while, a poor girl gets her teddy bear stolen, and you have to desperate times. You have to get Ryan Reynolds involved. That's what happens.
But I think the people who return it should be celebrated even more, to like a crazy extent where it's just terribly embarrassing for them. Like, oh, here's the Good Samaritans. It's this guy's special day. And like they have a parade and everything. And it just makes the guy really nervous. I think that'd be a good method.
I'm into that.
Just him, he's accepting the novelty check. Like,
Yeah.
So where were you when you took the bear? Tell us all about that.
Okay, should we get to Shane's surprise?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So there's a guy in London and his penis fell off because he Yeah.
I saw this.
Okay, so he had like an infection on his penis. His penis falls off. They come up with a procedure to put the penis on his arm. They can grow it back like a new penis, but it takes 4 years before the penis is ready to be glued back on or sewn back onto his genital area. So my question for you is, would you go no penis for the rest of your life or endure the 4-year penis on the arm routine?
Is the arm the only fertile ground? Is that the only part you could do it?
Well, it's that or forehead, so you get your choice.
No, but it could be grown on like your thigh or your knee, underneath your knee. Like it doesn't have to be your forearm, because I feel like there's other ways you could cover that up. Like I'm just wondering what it is about the forearm scientifically.
I don't know. I'm assuming they did it in the best place possible. It could be somewhere better,
Okay,
but we're doing the forearm. Okay, don't ask any questions.
All right. So, question: would we? So Shane is asking us if we would put a penis on our arm in order to have it workable again in 4 years. So you got to go through 4 years with dick arm, and then you get to have a penis again.
How old are you? How old is this guy?
I think he's like man age.
No, maybe a millennial. We don't know. We'll check that.
Like, do you still have the bodily functions available to yourself?
No, I don't.
They're not
think
going to
so.
run like the urethra through
And
the
you
arm.
have to wear short sleeve shirts.
Now you're just being silly.
It's a bet, man.
Yeah, now he's being silly.
That's part of the deal with the doctor. Yeah, the doctor's like, but here's the catch.
Well, it could get infected if you wear long sleeve.
It needs to breathe. Yeah, sure. Why not? What the hell? I guess. I just don't, will the penis work after 4 years, or is it just aesthetically going to hang there?
I would hope it works.
It's like you got to grow it. I don't know. Like, it's like, that seems crazy to me that you would reconnect it after 4 years, after it grows, like on your arm. I got to read about the science. This seems pretty wild to me.
Now's a good time to do it. Like, everyone's working from home.
Yeah.
You can just hang out inside. You don't have to be in public too much. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do it, now's the time.
Very true. Shane, would you get a penis on your arm if it meant you could have it after 4 years?
Only if it works, though. Like, if it's just going to, like, hang. No one looks at a flaccid penis that much. I think it has to be able to get erect.
That much.
Max, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm probably in your camp, Shane. I think if it serves some kind of purpose, if you wanted to have a kid later, or some kind of gratification,
You think it would serve some
the
purpose?
long-term play.
It would definitely serve some purpose.